All right, thanks a lot, Pete. Developing tonight, a warning issued just 6 days before this nurse was crushed by an elevator. In a cease and desist letter, JPS Hospital in Fort Worth was strongly urged to stop making elevator repairs themselves. Bradley Blackburn tonight, they're live. Bradley, what's on the story?
John, this really is a bombshell in this case. Until now, it's been largely one-sided, with officials here at JPS Hospital pointing the finger squarely at ThyssenKrupp. That is the huge company that maintains their dozens of elevators. But now, for the first time, that company is firing back. They have released that letter that was delivered to JPS Hospital 6 days before the accident that injured nurse Karen Stratford. In it, they write, personnel at JPS have recently been working on or resetting elevators at the hospital without informing ThyssenKrupp. Quote, repairs performed by untrained individuals can put the safety of the riding public at risk. It is important to note that letter references a specific elevator, number 20. That is not the elevator that Stratford was using when she was injured. We don't know whether that machine had also been reset or worked on in some way, but we do know that when Nurse Stratford stepped onto an elevator here at the hospital, she never imagined how it would change her life.
It's something that you shouldn't have to fear.
I just keep going over and over what happened in the elevator, and just what was going through her mind.
Those are two of Nurse Stratford's colleagues that spoke to us yesterday. JPS has not yet responded to our questions about this newly released cease and desist letter, but their CEO has been harshly critical of ThyssenKrupp, saying they failed in performing their obligations. Now, we also know that that many more details have been released today that are new, and Cynthia, we're going to stay on this story for 10 o'clock, and we will have those later.